One other thing I wanted to ask is new artists. Who's somebody current that's out right now that you really like?
I'm enjoying Kid Cudi a lot.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get into his record, but I am enjoying it a lot.
It's poppy.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. I'm starting to not to hop on the bandwagon because I tried to avoid it for so long, but I'm starting to get into like Drake's music. So I'm starting to understand it now. I enjoy him.
Is there a stigma when it comes to Canadian hip hop?
What do you mean?
When you're trying to go into the States, or do people take hip hop artists from Canada as serious?
I don't know. I see it different than everybody else. I tend to think that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that it's the Canadian artists that take being a Canadian more serious than American artists do. Now, I probably felt the same way when I was coming up, but when I started to garner attention from U.S. artists and just hip-hop fans, then that kind of disappears. You know, like, I was just like, okay, they really don't care. You know, as long as you're good at what you're doing, you know, like I get regular play from, and I'm not trying to name drop and be a douche, but I get regular airplay from like DJ Premier, which is a trip to me, right? But never does Premier ever refer to me as Canadian artist. You know, that it just never comes up. So I think Canadians are more insecure of being Canadian for some weird reason, rather than being, you know, secure or confident in your own talent. Like, I don't think anyone cares.
I think it's typically Canadian maybe to just measure success on an American level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's crazy, DJ Premier, Gangstar. I saw Gangstar once, and they were insane.
Yeah.
What was that like when you found out he was playing your stuff? I mean,
it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was funny because a friend of mine sent me an MP3 of the show. And then when, you know, it's one thing to hear your song being played on the show, but then you want to hear him talk about you, you know, and what's great is that this was like my first introduction to America, you know, and then to listen to DJ Premier not be able to pronounce your name properly. Like, he's like, that last track was my man, D-Sisive. What's his name again? And then you hear a guy in the back, D-Sisive. He's like, yeah, D-Sisive. And I'm just like, yeah.
Nice.
Call me what you like.
Yeah, whatever
Call
you
me
want.
what you like.
I like the guy in the background.
Yeah. He
That
knew.
guy.
Decisive.
He knows everything.
Yeah, so it was a trip. And then at that point, that's when like I had the book out, and the book was doing really well. You know, it was starting to pick up steam, and my single Like This with Guilty Simpson was getting like heavy rotation all over. And then I'd walk downtown, and people I know would come up to me, and like all before is like forgotten, and it's just like, I heard you on Primo's show.
Yeah.
I heard DJ Premier played you. Like, yeah, yeah. And then like the next guy, I heard DJ Premier played you. I'm like, yeah. And then it starts to get like, I do other things. There's other things too. But I'll roll with it.
How did he? Do you know how he found out about you? Or I mean,
yeah, one of his production partners, Moss, who does production on
your record.
On my records. He's done on everything. We've been friends. He's now working with Premier under Works of Mart. So Premier overheard him listening to some of my stuff and was just like, "What's that?" And then just played.
Dope. On that note, the production, I mean, there is a big American tie to the production. I mean, you have tons of people producing on this record. There's also Canadian ones. You have Marco Polo on there, too.
Yeah.
Talk about how many different people are actually involved in this record.
My main collaborator is a producer / MC named Moonshine. And I've done the majority of my work with him. And that's how I prefer. You know, like we just kind of like, we're good friends, and he gets me, he gets the sound, you know, he completes me. And so we make great music together. And but then, you know, I also like to branch out for like a couple songs on the record. Like I like him to do the majority of it, and then we branch out. So on this usually Moss is always a return. Archaeologist's always a return. Ninth Uno, who's an MC that I've worked with a lot, he's just started producing, and his production is like mind-blowing now. He did Believe, and then I just kind of hit up Marco, you know, and we just did some work. So there's always going to be that Moonshine chunk, and then other guys I like.
Nice. I was watching an old video of yours.
Oh, God.
And Jason Rouse is in it.
Yeah.
How did you and Jason Rouse end up working on something together?
I've known Jason for years, like a long time, like 12 years. So we were like friends for like 6 years before we did that video, which I wish someone didn't decide to resurrect via YouTube. It kind of hurts me to watch it, but that's fine. That's fine.
It's a pretty funny video.
Yeah. Huh.
That must be interesting, though. So you've known him for a long time. So both of your careers have...
Yeah, Jason's doing really well.
Also, Anvil. You just released a song about Anvil, which is pretty cool. Tell us about that.
I don't know.
The movie was just very inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it 50-50. It was kind of inspiring and kind of frightening at the same time. And that's no disrespect to the boys of Anvil.
No.
And I think what creeped me out the most about the documentary was that I was watching it, and something about it just seemed very familiar to me. You know, like, I was just like, there's something in this documentary that I just can't seem to put my finger on it. And then the more I watched it, the more I recognized that this dude lives one street over from me. So like that like creeped me out a lot more. You know,
Like
so I'm just
literally one street over?
He's like a street over from me. And I'll admit it, after I went into like psycho stalker mode and checked him out and found all the info, and I'm like driving by his house at midnight and crying outside, like, no, I want to shovel his snow. And but it just kind of freaks me out a bit, like that, you know, this is a possibility, right? Like, who knows? But it just creeped me out. But I just thought it was an amazing movie.
Well, it's a real movie, man. And I mean, it's pretty, you know, they stayed at it.
Yeah.
You know, they kept playing music, man. Whether or not people were coming out or whatever, you know, they were still doing it either way.
Mad Dog.
Yeah. He's like their one fan.
Yeah, drinking beer through his nose.
Yeah. Has he showed up at any Decisive shows yet?
Who, Mad Dog?
Yeah.
No, the song just came out 3 days ago. I'll give it time.
Yeah.
Have you watched Spinal Tap since you've watched Anvil?
Yeah, it's like...
Do you notice a lot of similarities?
Yeah, there are some similarities.
What do you think about that?
I just think that it's like a real-life version of Spinal Tap. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Also a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Also a good movie. On the Anvil note, though, I mean, are you rapping from the perspective of a member of Anvil?
No. Rapping from the perspective of me. Telling
Telling your
story.
story, yeah.
Yeah. But using their sound bites.
Yeah. But I mean, hip-hop allows for that, though, no?
Yeah.
You can if you want to. I mean, there's that...
What, to rap from the perspective of Anvil?
Somebody else, yeah. You know,
Yeah,
there's
you
that
could.
storytelling side to it, but there's also that... Like, how much of it is fantasy for you?
My songs?
Mhm.
Zero. And that's why I'm famous now.
That's also why you don't rap about guns and bling and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Decisive, man. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you very much.
Totally.